and welcome to Sarah's Stamping Retreat. Today we're going to be creating some cute grid cards and I'm going to be using some new Spellbinders products to do that. So the first thing that I'm going to use is this STAMPENDOUS Hugs Accessories set, and I have die cut these so that you can see what they look like, because I know that just the dies on their own kind of look a bit strange. So we've got this here, and this set coordinates with some bears, and I think that this is supposed to go around the neck of one of the bears like this, is like a little tie. But I actually think it makes a really nice banner, and I don't have the bears, so I'll be using that as a banner. And then we've got a couple of these little envelopes, so I'll pop this one together first. And all I'm doing to pop this together, I'm going to add some glue to each of these little side bits. And this die scores it for you as well, so you don't even have to score these pieces. And then I've cut this piece in the same colour cardstock, and I'm just going to glue that over the top like that. Now I think there's a few different ways you could put this together. So you could put it together like this. You could also put it together and glue that over the top so it looks like an envelope. And you could also glue it and put that bit over the top so it's an envelope that way. And then you could also cut another one of these, because obviously that would fit inside the envelope. So if you wanted to create it into like a proper envelope, then you could put one of these inside, you could glue that down like that, and we could add like one of these little things as like a little embellishment. So those are really cute envelopes. Now we've got another envelope here, but I also think that you can use this as a present. So again, there's a few ways that you could put this together. So we can either put a bit of glue under there and create it as something that's going to stay closed, or we can leave it like this and then the person can fold it out and you could write a message in there. And you can seal it with the piece that goes around it. So this piece comes and it's scored so it can fold, and that folds around it, so you can see that you wouldn't need any glue on there if you pop this around it and just glued that there so that it slides on and off. In fact, I'll glue that now so you can see what I mean. So if I glue that down, that can slide on and off. And then you can like add a little bow to that to embellish there. So the other thing is, if you wanted to make this into an envelope, this is the same width as this, so you can use this one if you want to make an envelope this way and put your bow that way, or you get a longer one and that one is perfectly sized to go around this like that, so that if you want an envelope, you can keep it closed with this, and then you can slide it off to access your message inside. And then we've got the bows and the hearts just to decorate them with. So for my first card, we're going to start with a really simple grid. So I've got a 5 3/4 inch card blank, that's basic grey from Stampin' Up. And then I've got a 4 1/4 piece of Melon Mambo cardstock and a 4-inch piece of the basic grey again. So I'm going to glue these together. Then I'm going to put a piece of double-sided adhesive foam behind here. And I can add that to my card front. And then I've got 4 of these little parcels that I made just in the way I showed you in the introduction, and I'm going to glue those onto here. I'm just going to set them out because we want that nice kind of like grid formation. Then we want them to be nicely spaced. I'm going to put that in there in mine. Let's do that pink one. So then I've hot foiled my sentiment using this Happy Birthday from the Mini Everyday Sentiments Glimmer plate set, and it comes with the banner dies to go with it, so I've used the coordinating die. And I'm just going to add a little bit of foam strip on the back of it. I'm just kind of trying to decide where to put it, so I thought maybe either there or there. I think I prefer it at the bottom. And then the other thing I'm going to do with these, just to finish them off, is to add some black gems to the middle of these bows. So I think when people think of grid cards, they often think of them as being quite basic and boring, but I think that's really cute. Then for the second card, I'm going to use a similar layout, but I'm going to use a completely different product and technique. So this is Mandala Flowers embossing folder from Spellbinders, and it's another new thing. In fact, I'll link below to another video that I did recently where I used this for a couple of cards in case you are looking for other ways to use it. So this is a 3D embossing folder, so you get a really nice deep emboss. And the other thing I really like it is it's 5.5 by 8.5. So you can do your 5x7 cards, your square cards, your A6 cards, your 4.25 by 5.5 cards. So many different sizes that you can do in that. And I think sometimes it's quite difficult to find embossing folders that you can use for your 5x7 cards. So I'm going to pop out my silicone mat, just a nice work surface to do this on. And then I am going to cover this piece of Melon Mambo cardstock with my embossing body. And I'm going to want to give it a nice old covering. Now I've got a piece that's way too big for my card because I like to cut the edges off when I've done this kind of technique. And then I'm going to put a line of VersaMark refill ink on here, and you could absolutely do this with your ink pad, but I prefer to use the refill because I feel like you get a better covering with the refill because obviously it's like thicker. So then I'm going to run my brayer through this and get a nice covering on my brayer. And then I want to lay this on the front piece of my embossing folder. So that's the bit that says Spellbinders on it, and it's also the bit that's the flattest. So this is the piece where the bit goes into rather than pops out of. So then I'm going to pop my cardstock in here like this, and then I'm going to pull that over and I'm going to pop it through my machine. And you can see already that that looks really cool because it's kind of given it a two-tone effect where the pink on the flowers hasn't got the VersaMark ink on and the pink behind has. And I actually really like that as it is, but we're going to go one step further. So then I'm going to cover this with black wow embossing powder. So you can see there's bits on the edges where I've put my fingers, and that's why I make the panel a bit bigger than I really want it. But you can already see how beautiful this is going to be. So I don't have any spare outlets today, so I'm just going to go and melt that. And then look how cool that is with the shiny black in the background and the pink. Such a nice technique. I'm really pleased with how that's turned out. And just so you know, the brayer is the game changer in this. I have tried this technique loads of times and I've just given up with it when I've been putting my ink pad straight onto the embossing folder, but the brayer really changes it and it really helps give that nice finish. So I'm going to cut that down. So then I've cut 4 1.5 inch squares out of that piece of embossed paper. And then I've also cut 4 1 3/4 inch squares out of the grey cardstock. I'm going to glue them together, and we're going to use a really similar layout to the last card. It's a bit of a smaller card and it's going to be slightly different, but it's a really similar layout with 4 squares to our grid, but we're going to get a really different look just by changing up what we've used to create our grid. So then I've got a 5 inch square grey card blank and a 4 inch square piece of pink cardstock, and I'm going to Add these to the pink. And I think I'm actually going to pop these up with some foam pads. So I'm going to glue that onto my card. And then I've just hot foiled this in the same way as I did the other one. It's the same sentiment as I used last time. I'm just going to grab a foam strip and then I can put that up on there. And then we've got another really pretty card. So then for my final card, I've got a 5-inch square card blank, the same Melon Mambo cardstock, and I'm going to tape a 4 3/4 inch square of the grey cardstock on top of it. And then I want to use a square die to cut a square up the middle of it. And this square die is about 2 inches square. And then I'm just going to use my T-ruler just to make sure I get it in the middle. Normally I just eyeball these things, but with a grid card it's going to look really off if it's not really lined up. So then I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine. And the reason that I taped this onto the card rather than stick it was because I wasn't sure whether I wanted an extra frame in the middle, but I think I'm really happy with that. So then I want to hot foil my sentiment into this aperture. So I'm going to pop in a bit of black foil and then I'm going to put this sentiment. I've chosen a sentiment that says a little note to say thanks, and I'm going to pop that on there, and then I'm just going to tape that on and then I can hot foil that. So then you can see we've got this cool sentiment that pops through our aperture. So then I'm going to glue this onto there, and then I'm going to create my grid around the outside with the hearts and the bows from the set. So I'm going to pop each of those up on foam pads. And then I'm going to add some of those black gems to the bows again. So there's that third card finished. So now we've got all 3 of today's cards. Hope that it's given you some ideas for creating your own grid cards and showing that they don't have to be super basic. Let me know in the comments below which one's your favourite. Really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd really appreciate you clicking like below, and you can also press subscribe if you'd like to see future videos. If you press the bell button and select all, then YouTube will also notify you when I've got a new video available. All of the products that I've used for today's cards are listed in the description below, and there's also a link there to my blog where you can find a picture supply list if that helps you find what you're looking for. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you again soon.